Okay, a lot of people don't want to invest in pensions now because of various scandals and things that have gone on in the past and locking the money away. A lot of people look at saving for their retirement through investing in their own home. So we're going to do an example of that now. So we just set up a simple basic model just with one person in it called Harry, who's going to be employed, and we're not going to select steady state data this time because we're going to use a full stochastic run, and we're going to leave him with the standard costs here. An important one is the fritter away item, which means he'll be sort of wasting or a lot of his spare money each week, so that he won't build up a massive amount of cash from which he could invest in his retirement. And accommodation, we're going to put him as a primary renter because we're going to actually get him to buy a house when we start. So I'm going to leave these items the same, but I'm going to increase his pay to 35,000. There we go. Now the first thing we need to do is to get Harry to buy a house. So select property, buy your first home. We're going to buy property for 150,000 and take out a mortgage. We can make that any amount we want, but on a salary of 35,000, 150,000 house is probably about right, with a repayment period of 25 years. You'll notice you can get a fixed rate here of 3% for the first 5 years. That's based on the fact that base rates are at 0.5% at the start of the model. So select OK there, and that's going to cost £8,400 a year. So we go ahead with that, and it just reminds us to remove rent there. So we're going to remove the rent item because we're not paying rent anymore. So you can see on the asset plane we've got a mortgage of minus 150,000 and a home of 150,000. Current account, we've seem to have lost some money there, so we just look at what's happened there. Well, the mortgage has come in 150,000. We've paid 1,500 in stamp duty, purchase costs of £1,000, and then the value of the home of £150,000 has gone out. So we've basically cost us 2,500 to buy the house. So all we're going to do now is allow the model to run forward, and you can see the current account is recovering a bit. Now the bank manager is sending various emails saying we're overdrawn here. We've got our standard annual email from the tax man with our tax return, various other items there. You'll notice soon we'll get a National Employee Savings Trust will appear, but we're just going to opt out of that. So here we've all been auto-enrolled into National Employee Savings Trust, and we've already put £1,700 in there, but I'm just going to opt out of that by removing the contribution item. And you'll notice now as we run forward, this is just bobbling up and down with investment returns, but there's no actual money going in it. Our mortgage is coming down, and we've got a problem. We've spent more than we've earned, and we've gone over our maximum overdraft limit. So I'm going to select go ahead with this payment for our social life and pay the £25 banking charge, but I'm clearly going to have to delete some of these items now as we're struggling to afford them. So I'm going to temporarily suspend the fritter away item for a couple of years, and I'm going to do the same with various other of these items. And let's do social as well. So that's reduced our outgoings considerably, but I'm also going to have to deal with this current account deficit. So I'm going to take out a personal loan of £4,000 over a 5-year period, and that's going to cost me £1,000 a year. So select OK there. We're going to display as income. I can see that £1,000 a year it's going to cost me. And now as I run forward again, personal loans coming down, mortgage is still coming down. As time moves on, you know, now suddenly current account is going up. I seem to have got my finances sorted in the short term. Mortgage is still coming down. We've got quite a lot of positive equity in our house now, which is obviously good. Since we delayed our spending for a couple of years, fritter away item has come back in now. So that's why current account is bobbling around zero again. Now as time moves on, we're 18 years into the future, mortgages come down to 63,000, home is 265,000. So our sort of plan for equity releases seems to be going along quite well now. We've got £200,000 of equity in our home. Mortgage will disappear shortly in 2037. There we go. Now current account is beginning to pick up. As we go through time, this is largely because the mortgage is gone. The fritter away item is now 81%. So 81% of the times we've had money to fritter, 81% of the times we wanted to fritter away money, we've had money to fritter away. So we're clearly living much better now. And we'll just allow this to run forward to our age about 64, 65. Get up to age 65 and have a look at what the situation is when we come to age 65. So we've now got £3,000 in our current account. We've got £18,000 in our nest pension. That's just been rolling up with interest and investment returns. But we've got £657,000 in our home. So what we want to look at now is how much income we can get out of this home. So we're making £114,000 a year net at work. So if I select home and select equity release, it tells me there are two types. I can either borrow against the value of the house, or I can actually sell a share of the property. So I'm going to look at selling. How much money will I get if I sell the whole of the property? There's no other life on which it depends, and it tells me the property is valued at £279,000 for equity release purposes. So I can actually release the whole of the value of the house for £279,000. Now that's considerably less than the £657,000 it's worth, but that £657,000 is as a vacant property. So I still get to live in it as a standard equity release. We get to live in it for the rest of our lives, but we obviously don't get the full value at this point in time. What I'm going to do in this case is I'll take the view that that's not going to be enough for the time being. I'm going to carry on working till I'm 70 years old. So I'll just keep going a month at a time. We can see the situation develop. The home's now gone up in value. We're in a high interest environment here. Base rates, you can see 11%. That's because inflation's gone up a long way. So obviously Bank of England trying to bring inflation down, as it's beginning to succeed to do there. Now we've reached state retirement age 68. And what I'm going to say is, in this case, we're going to defer the pension, because we're still working. We're going to work till we're 70 and see what our finances are like there. So if I select defer pension, and it's now telling me that I've reached my retirement age from work, but I'm also going to defer the pension from that. So I'm going to select carry on working for a couple of years to 2051, back to 2050, and then I can just carry on working. The state pension will actually go up in value because I've deferred it, and obviously I'll be putting more money. If I was saving for a pension, I'll be putting more money in the pension. Right, now we've reached age 70 and we've reached our expected leaving retirement date from work. That's the one we deferred. So we can now draw our pension for the nest scheme, which I'm just going to draw that now, because I'm going to take 25% as an annuity, increasing with RPI. And we've got a pension of 1,000. Now we're only saving in it for a couple of months, so we've got a pension out of that of £1,700. So that's not too bad. It's not going to go a long way in given inflation, but we'll take that. So we can see that income there of £1,735. We can see the state pension has now started at 58,000. That's the one we deferred from before, but if we notice, we've got a expenditure here which massively exceeds that 174,000, which massively exceeds our income of 62,000. Now 58,000 might look like quite a large state pension, but I'm just going to put in up here and see what that is in today's money. That's equivalent to 8,000 in today's money. So there's been a lot of inflation going on in the last 40 years of the model. But let's look again at our home. So home is now worth 879,000, and let's look at equity release again, and we're going to look at selling the whole of the property. So now we can get 414,000 out of the home. We're older, so we've got less time left to live, so we can get a greater share of the property in equity release. So we're going to select equity releasing 100%, and there we go. We can see the equity release there is now exactly the negative value of the home, so we've got no equity left in our home. And if we look at our current account, we can see we had 16,000 in it, and we've got the whole of that equity release now as a cash sum in our current account. But I don't want to just keep that there in the current account. I'm going to buy an annuity with that. So I select annuity. We're going to choose one that increases with RPI. So an income of £1 per year, age 70, will cost £12.41. That's increasing with RPI. So we can buy. So we spend 12,000, we'll get a 1,000 income, but we want to spend most of this 400,000. So I'm going to select 400,000 there. And you can see I've got my annuity, which is giving me 32,000 a year. So that's basically an income I've got out of selling my home. So I've not saved for a pension, apart from this small amount in the Nest pension, which is giving me this annuity of 1,700, and I've equity released from my home. Still live in my home, but there'll be no value to pass on to children now, and that's giving me an income of 32,000 a year. So we can see here that that's not going to be enough to live off to our current lifestyle, so I'm just going to have to start removing spending items until I can get down to an income which is covering my expenses, and you can see it is quite difficult. So I don't want to remove groceries. Council tax, I can arguably probably halve that, so change that to 350, say. Given I'm living on my own and I'm retired. Sky broadband, I can probably reduce that, for example. We're now getting to the point where perhaps we delete the winter holidays, and we're getting close to the point where we can now afford to live off the income we've got. So I'm going to allow this now to run forward more, and you can see my current account's coming down, and I'm beginning to get a bit of trouble there. So we've got quite a bit of income by buying a house and releasing it as equity and then buying an annuity, but we are struggling a bit without saving for an additional pension as well.